In 1776, Adam Smith wrote a book, The Wealth of Nations, which is the beginning of the technological thinking about industries. It's about managing relationships. It's about creating a new world. You see, the first industrial revolution, so to speak, was about the movement from family economy to community economy. In the beginning of times, the mother made your clothes if you had any. The mother brought the food home. You knew what goat was slaughtered. Your belt, if you had a belt, came from the cow that you once knew. First industrial revolution means people began to move towards community creation. You no longer needed to make your own shoes because there is a neighbor who was making shoes. You just had a relationship with the neighbor, so can you please make shoes for me? That's why in Germany you have families with the name Schumacher. That is the person who was making shoes for the community. Now that person who made shoes needed to know who had the cows. Yeah? So he had a relationship to get the hide from people to make the shoes. So the first industrial revolution was about changing human relations for commerce. Did you know that in the old civilization people did not have surnames? The first surname on the book is recorded in the year 1066. We did not have surnames. Surnames are a new thing, my friend. In the Old Testament, Moses who? Abraham who? Noah who? Mary who? One name each. That was the economy. And if you were more interested, they would tell you Mary of Nazareth. That's a village. Surnames came with the introduction of the nation states. When the central government arrived, and the central government needed to know who was where, so that they could track who was not paying taxes, so that they could track who did not send their sons to war in order to come back and find their villages. That is why today the families in the history who did not have to pay tax still don't have surnames. What is the surname of the Queen of England? Elizabeth II, that's a number. She only volunteered to pay tax like 12 years ago. They have no surnames. Charles this, Harry that, and they go by village, Windsor. So we must understand that technology is about managing who we are as human beings. The second industrial revolution comes when the human community has evolved from one family to others. You were no longer required to marry your niece. You could move from one village to another and acquire a wife. And there was some communication that took place. That's how Lobola arrived. Lobola is not an African practice. It's not an African culture. It's an economic management. When the Bantu people came from up north and settled around KwaZulu and here, they were in very small communities. Yeah? 10 people here, 13 people there. Now the economy at the time, ladies and gentlemen, was the cow and the woman. And at night, I would raid my neighbor to get either their daughter or their cows. So human nature has it that at some point they came together as a man, this thing of raiding one another must stop, man. Why can't we sit down and discuss this? So that if you want my daughter, just bring me your cows, man, and we settle this thing. So the economy continues to change. Technology continues to change. Come 1969, the world has moved on. Now we can communicate much better. Transportation has increased. Thanks to Adolf Hitler, he introduced the Autobahn. The trains are very fast and speedy. Some of them are electrified. So what we are saying here, ladies and gentlemen, and you as producers of knowledge, is to help us as Africans understand how to live in the world that is easy communicatable. Yeah? The plane on which I came is very big. More than 400 people. I do not understand that. With 400 bodies, food, and the food is warm. Their luggage, cargo, and fuel. It still takes off. Now, if I was thinking if my father was still alive and I was to explain to him, Kuti, this aeroplane in this language is called the Big Bird, left Germany where the missionaries used to come from and arrived in Johannesburg, and he would say, how did it know where to go? Yeah? I'm trying to simplify things here so that we can live with a world that our brother presented to us. We live in a very, very difficult and dangerous world. The information flow is beyond our imagination. When I was at UNISA, South Africa is very advanced in terms of understanding human laws and how not to repeat the mistakes of apartheid. Apartheid is very important to us. So they introduced what they call employment equity. Remember that. That means that in a department, in a faculty, you cannot have more Zulus than Xhosas. You have to balance things to look like the demographics outside. So we had to employ a white fellow who was a police officer before. Now he comes first day on his job and he wears a suit that he borrowed from his son. And I'm his boss now. You can imagine the relations are very tense here. And I say, Mr. Peterson, can you please go and send this fax? He's very proud to be sent by a black person. Things have changed. So he goes, I assume that he knows how to send the fax. And he's never sent a fax in his life, but he's white. Two pages. 30 minutes later, my friend is not back. He's still sending. So I go to him and say, what's happening? And with a terrible embarrassment in his face, he says, no, sir, this thing is not going. I put it in, but it comes back. I put it in, it comes back. He is not wrong, because in his mind, when you say you are sending, the thing goes somewhere. But this time around, it's not responding to him. It once embarrassed him. It keeps coming back. The research shows me that at least 80% of the dwellers of the African continent live in rural Africa. They do not understand fax machines. They do not understand IT. So, we need to come to terms with how separated we are in this room from the majority of the people from whom we come. You remember in 2002, in Mozambique, they built, in Maputo, they built what they call Polana Mall. The first time Mozambique had a mall. Before that, there was a war. You don't create industries when you are at war. So ShopRite or Pick and Pay or Checkers combined efforts and they created this mall with the first escalator in Mozambique. in Polana Mall. This is fact. For the first 9 months of the establishment of that system, the escalator, what's an escalator? It's part of the building that moves up and down with you on it. That escalator in Polana Mall, my friends, was under police guard. You're laughing. This is fact. Why? Parents got wind of it, that there is a thing there that moves and it's free transport. They took their children to swing on the escalator, and many babies got hurt because a little child does not know whether you follow it or you go down with it. So the little people got hurt. It made sense that on Sundays, people went to the escalator to take wedding photos. And I can understand that. The lady in the hand and she's going up, you take a nice shot. Do you blame them? You can't blame them. Ethiopia, my friend, only 2003, they had the first escalator. Ethiopia was not colonized. That's why they were left behind. Today, if you go to Addis, it's changing now, where they have construction. You see women carrying water from the lake to the construction site. Because there was no white man there to mess them up. What I'm trying to say is that the world in which we live is very complicated.